Hi, my name's Shauna. This is Shauna's World. Welcome back to my channel where I make videos about living intentionally. If that sounds like something you might be interested in, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. And you can also follow me on Instagram at Shauna's World. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about frugality and specifically why I'm so frugal and what frugality means to me. I've seen this going around as a trend on YouTube, and as someone who very much used to not be frugal, I felt like it was a useful video to make for people who might be interested in living more frugally and being able to be more intentional with how they spend. Being frugal, particularly if you haven't been frugal in the past, can be absolutely life-changing. And I really wasn't always frugal. For a long time, I was living beyond my means. So I lived in my flat in South London, and I basically existed to pay the mortgage and the bills, and that's where all my paycheck went. I didn't have a lot spare, but every now and then I would book holidays on my credit card, and I convinced myself I was going to pay it back over the next few months and just make sure I scrimped and saved in other areas. But because I wasn't that intentional about my spending and things were pretty tight, I was just overspending everywhere, and I couldn't pay back those credit cards when I want. So I ended up paying the minimum payment every month, and the balance was creeping up, and I just could not afford that lifestyle. At that time, my struggles with executive function and organisation also meant I was regularly buying lunch out at work while I was working in central London, and that really adds up through the month. I'd also buy convenience food at train stations when I was waiting for a train, often just to kill time rather than because I actually needed to nourish myself. I was never a massive shopper, but definitely wasn't that intentional when I did buy things, and bought things new a lot of the time, and often bought things for emotional relief or to make myself feel better rather than because it was something I put a lot of thought into wanting or needing or that would add value to my life. There were a few things that made me decide to address my attitude towards money, and a big part of that was when I decided I really wanted to take a sabbatical from my day job and take some time out to travel, to do a through hike, and at the time that was really out of reach. I was in debt, I wasn't saving, but that was when I started really getting serious about being more frugal, and that initially helped me to pay off credit card debt and then allowed me to start saving quite seriously. I found that when I started to be frugal, that lifestyle not only impacted the amount of money I had in my bank account, but also my quality of life and how happy I was. So I downsized to buy a boat on the Thames, and I rented out my flat, which allowed me to save. And I really cut out a whole lot of things like eating out, takeaways, coffee on the go, holidays I couldn't afford, unintentional shopping. I set up a budget tracking spreadsheet and started making a note of what was coming in and what was going out each month. So that helped me bring intentionality to where my money went. In a few months of living that slightly more frugal lifestyle, I managed to get out of credit card debt and to start putting away a significant amount of money each month to save. Now, I guess the whole crux of this video and why I'm frugal came down to what I did next, and that was that I got clear on my values. I got clear on what was important to me, what I wanted from life, what I valued, what makes me come to life, what makes me my soul sing. And I thought there were different things, different elements of that. But I know that something that really motivates me is a sense of freedom, a sense of not being tied down and not feeling like I'm forced to do anything I don't want to do. So while I was working in a job in London and existing to pay my bills, I did not have a strong sense of freedom. That feeling of wanting a sabbatical to give me a taste of what it would be like to wake up and do what I want every day is the first step. But I guess long term, it's about financial stability throughout my life. And I guess for me, freedom means finding the right balance between time and money, because both are really important for having that sense of freedom. Because if you have a lot of free time because you don't work or you don't work much, but you don't have the earnings. So if you're not working or not working much and you don't have a lot of money, you do have a huge amount of time freedom, but you might be really struggling because you can't pay your bills and you can't do the things you want to do or the things that light you up, or you may not be able to socialize because you may not be able to travel to see your loved ones, for example. So it's about finding that balance between time and money to give me that sense of freedom. And that's something I'm still leaning into. And really that feeling of freedom has been my guiding pillar in everything I do, and every time I spend, I think, is this going to bring me closer to freedom? And at that time, I realized that sense of freedom could be found by being more frugal day to day. So making maybe the less comfortable decisions day to day about buying something I wanted or eating something I wanted could be sacrificed for a bigger sense of freedom in my life and more purpose. Being disciplined about not spending on the things that don't really add value to my life helped me to direct more resource into the things that really help me live an authentic life. I'm starting to work towards working less in doing the things that don't light me up and working more in areas that really bring me joy, and finding more intentional ways of earning money outside my regular job. I also since moved out of London and I'm living more communally now. I share my house with 4 other people and I'm looking at a long-term communal situation, and that's really helped with frugality. It allows me to share expenses and it's much easier not to spend mindlessly when I'm not living on my own. Some people talk about frugality in terms of spending as little as possible, and that's not what it is to me. It's about spending as little as possible on the things that don't matter, or spending nothing on the things that don't matter, so that I can direct my resources to the things that do. So for me, the way I spend my time is worth investing in way more than material things. And I think that's really common for people of my generation, to want to invest in making memories and having joy with people. And I very much, you know, when I see people, I do try to keep things frugal. I do things like picnics or cooking at each other's houses, and that's twofold exciting because you're spending time with loved ones and, you know, doing something meaningful together. But equally, I am a bit happier to spend money in areas that are going to make those memories. So travel and adventure is worth investing in for me, but I'm not going to mindlessly go on holiday all the time. I'm going to be really thoughtful about where I want to spend my recreational time and how I can do that cheaply. I love camping, and you can do that for absolutely free as long as you've got the gear. And, you know, things like some of my hobbies can be quite expensive. So for example, trail running is well, it can be relatively cheap. All you need is a pair of trainers, but the deeper into the sport you get, the more likely you are to want the more advanced kit. I've been borrowing things, I've been making do with what I can, and often getting secondhand things that people are giving away or selling off really cheap. And it's only now, a bit further down the line, I know, okay, with this bit of kit I can make do with something budget, or that's something a friend was throwing away, but for this thing, for example, I'd really like to invest in, and I'm being really intentional about that. I think I've talked about intentionality a lot, but that's really what frugality means to me. The tagline for this channel is living intentionally, and I think how we spend is such a big part of that, and one that often gets overlooked when we're talking about wellness and well-being and that kind of thing. Being more frugal has genuinely allowed me to pursue my dreams. It allowed me to hike 1,000 kilometers across the Middle East. It allowed me to spend 5 weeks in a boxing camp. These are kind of once in a lifetime experiences that only were able to happen because of frugality. And that frugality is carried on so I can make new adventures and new memories as I go through my life. You could say, is it really frugal to scrimp and save in certain areas, but then drop a lot of money on, say, a big trip or something? But for me, that is what frugality is about. It's just about intentionality. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's been really a journey of being disciplined, and that sounds quite boring, but that discipline enables so much freedom and so much fun and so much magic. And for me, there's no point in one without the other. I hope I'm finding a balance in those things, in not squandering money but spending it where it's really time to enjoy life. Frugality for frugality's sake, unless you really are on a very tight budget, then of course it's really important. But frugality for frugality's sake, if you do have disposable income, is just kind of pointless. But frugality so that you can go on and live your values and follow your dreams and make the magic happen that so many people aren't able to because they're just kind of stuck in the hamster wheel of life and working and paying bills and stuff. And I know it can be really hard to get out of, but getting clear on what your values are, getting clear on what would light you up, what do you want from life, and how can you make that happen, I think that's a really joyful thing So that's why I'm so frugal, to bring intentionality to everything I do, to forego the small stuff to make the magic happen, to squeeze every bit of joy from life that I possibly can. So that is me and frugality. Thank you for listening to my rant. I hope that you enjoyed that. I really appreciate you being here. I'd love it if you tell me in the comments if you've ever sat down and figured out what your values are and what your kind of driving force in life is, because I really think that helps with this kind of stuff. If you did enjoy the video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!